morning, everyone. So we are still in this series called Face Your Fears Challenge. And the idea, again, is to realize that we don't have to wait to be inspired or wait to have some sort of conjured up confidence to face some of our fears, that we can face our fears while being scared. So this whole idea of just going for it anyway, recognizing that you're scared or fearful or, uncomfortable, and doing it anyway. So last week, if you want to check out my first installment of the Face Your Fears Challenge, I focused on a more physical fear, and that is the fear that I wouldn't be able to defend myself against an attacker. So I faced the fear of guns that I have, and it's more of a discomfort than a fear. But I went out and I learned how to shoot. I learned how the gun works, and I actually got to feel the power with my own hands. So if you want to check that out, please do. And there's a blog post to accompany the video. This week, I'm focusing on a more emotional fear, and that is the fear of rejection socially. So this can be different for different people, but I think a lot of people could relate to that. We all have a fear of rejection to an extent, and sometimes it makes us not, reach out to others in a way that could help us have better friend groups, more plentiful acquaintances, and some of us sometimes feel like we just don't have a lot of people to reach out to with when we have certain problems, need help with certain things, right? So I'm asking today, what's your context with fear of rejection? Are you the type of person that likes the idea of having like a lot of coworkers who are friends, but you're like me and that just never happens? Are you afraid to put yourself out there? Are you afraid that you're going to say something wrong or come off as like weird or desperate, or is it dating for you? So let's talk about it. Let's build a community and find ways to connect and relate to each other. So in my own context, I'm sharing today has to do with my current undertaking, which is wedding photography. So if you haven't looked at any of my other stuff so far, I decided to quit my job this year, my full-time stable salary job, to pursue wedding photography, which was a hobby up till this point, and I'm taking it seriously now. I left my job in the middle of COVID-19, global health pandemic. Great timing. Well, anyway, it's fine. It's been a month, and I've been doing a lot of research into what are other wedding photographers who are successful doing. And one theme that I keep seeing pop up over and over is this idea that it's not just about you and what you do and your gear and your business model. Remember also that you should be building a community around yourself of other like-minded folks. So this goes against what I have been doing, which is being a lone wolf about everything. I don't have any other photographer friends yet. I don't have a pool of photographers to draw on when I need an assistant, when I need a second shooter. I just don't. I don't have anybody to ask when I have a camera problem and I don't understand what's going on, why my shots are coming out a certain way. All I have is YouTube. So it'd be nice, and I'm just not usually a person who thinks that other people would want to hang out with me. And that sounds super self-deprecating, but it just comes from me being a shy person and me always kind of feeling like the other. So this week particularly, I am really focusing on reaching out to other photographers, and especially those who I'm a little intimidated by. And what I mean by this is I follow a bunch of photographers And there are a few in my area that I look at, and I look at their photos and I go, how do you create those photos? They're amazing, and they bewilder me because I go into all my shoots thinking, okay, I'm going to try to, wow myself. And then they never quite compare, right? So there's always going to be someone in your eyes better than you, and that's okay. But rather than looking at those people who, I idolize as some sort of idols or gods that are just untouchable, and I could never be, I'm never worthy of being in their circle, in their presence, I'm remembering there are people just like me. They might be at a different level. They might know some things that I don't. They might have had more experiences and are a little bit more seasoned. But who knows? I might know something that they don't. I might do something a little differently than them. Some of them might like my photos too. But how am I ever going to know if I don't reach out? So I've been reaching out to photographers that I really admire in the area, and rather than looking at myself as just some, some like little underling, I can step in and go, hi. Well, I'm not going to shake anybody's hand because we're in COVID times, but you know what I mean. So that's what I'm doing this week. What are some ways that maybe you could start facing that fear? Or maybe it's not quite the fear of rejection. Maybe you don't really care about, reaching out and having more acquaintances and more friends. But did something spark in you with this conversation that led you to a desire that you have that you just never thought you could do? And that's the whole point of all of this, is realizing our own potentials, right? So I'm going to leave you with one really cool, inspirational thing that I found this week. I've been reading this I've been reading this book called Imperfect Courage. It's a lot of R's. It's by Jessica Honegger, and she is the founder of Noonday Collection, if you want to check her out. So her book about courage goes through her, her whole experience with lots of different life things that took a lot of courage. And she basically just talks about the same thing I'm talking about, which is you don't have to just wait around for courage to strike. It's not going to. You're going to be scared. Just go anyway. One little small story that she shared in her book was a story from one of her coworkers. And when one of her coworkers was a very little girl, she would try to call other little girls to see if they would want to come and play. And she was getting a lot of rejections one day. And her mom had overheard the conversations. This was back in the days of landlines, when you could have multiple phones in the house all tied to the same line. And so while the little girl was on the phone, her mom was in another room listening in, right? I remember those days. I'm not that young. So she, after like the third rejection or so, her mom wanted to just rush to her aid and, comfort her and say, like, oh, don't worry about those girls, honey. But something stopped her, and the mom decided to just kind of let her go through this process, let her daughter go through this process of rejection. And it was amazing because it took the girl like 9 or 10 little girls rejecting her before she found one who was willing. And she came to her mom and she was so excited. So-and-so can come over and play. And she wasn't even fazed by all the rejection. So I'm going to try to be like that little girl this week. I'll let you know how it goes. And until next time, have a wonderful week. And please share your experiences. I'd love to hear them. Take care.